Have you ever had a weed problem so bad you considered high-yield artillery? Hey people, voice talking to you, and this is Calyx, a sci-fi RTS colony survival game where we're sent to a living and very angry planet to mine its resources. If you'd like to check this game out for yourself, I'll have a link for you down in the description, and right next to that is a link to my full playthrough stream if you'd like to see some more gameplay and my first impressions. After a long voyage through space, most of our crew has ended up dead due to unexplained circumstances. As one of the last survivors, we, a member of the ship's janitorial staff, are abruptly awakened by our ship's AI. Forced into the roles of architect, foreman, and military strategist, we're dropped down to the surface of a mysterious planet in order to create a profitable enterprise or die alone in the hinterlands of space. There isn't any voice acting and minimal visuals to accompany this exposition, so it's mostly just reading. Overall, I'd say the story is pretty flimsy at the moment, though I am exceptionally curious about the Calyx plants dominating the planet's surface. Yeah, this planet has something of an unusual ecosystem. The dominant organism of this world is a massive species of plant called Calyx. These plants react to our presence on the surface and will begin to grow at an alarming rate, covering vast swaths of land in a matter of minutes and crushing anything in its way. Calyx itself is our biggest threat here, and we have to learn to combat these aggressive growths if we want to establish a successful mining operation. But I'll go over combat in a little while. First, let's cover exactly what it takes to build a colony on this dangerous world. There's only 3 resources for us to keep track of: gold, ore, and power. Ore is the reason we're here. The blue veins dotting the surface of the planet can be mined, and the ore can be used to construct new buildings, defenses, and troops. To earn gold, we have to send the ore up to orbit and a rocket to be sold, so making money is wholly dependent on your ability to transport ore. Thing is, rockets take a ton of power to charge up, so keeping enough charge from solar panels is super important, especially since your defenses won't run without power. Aside from leaving enough room for your units to move and ensuring everything is within your available power, there isn't really much to city building. There's a very basic research system where we build a structure and can spend gold and ore to unlock new buildings and troops, but that's pretty much it. The 2 major items of importance in base building are securing access to new ore deposits, because the supply of each vein is limited, and creating a defensive perimeter to keep out the encroaching vines. We can build up walls and turrets to fend off Calyx growths, which admittedly feels a little out of theme, considering we're fighting massive plants with machine guns, but considering our troops are armored tanks, I guess it could be worse. I would like to see something more creative in regards to units and defenses though. Maybe like flamethrowers or saw blades would be more appropriate. Building up our colony is great and all, but the primary goal of each map, or at least the example level they showed off, is to destroy all the Calyx plants on the map. Combating a rapidly growing super plant by shooting at it is almost always a losing battle. At the start of a level, any Calyx pods present will rapidly begin to spread ivy, vines, and roots over any exposed ground until it covers the entire map. The more roots and growth the Calyx has in an area, the more aggressively it spreads. However, cutting off a root will rapidly clear all ivy and subsequent branches without a connection to the main plant. This makes learning to cut off branches at strategic points the key to victory. We have a couple different kinds of tanks we can build and command, each with its own strengths. Standard tanks fire quickly and excel at keeping ivy at bay, while mobile repair units keep your tanks from exploding. Arguably the most important weapon for both tanks and defensive turrets is artillery. Artillery is slow-moving, slow-shooting, and can't engage at close range. However, it can target distant root structures and cut off the Calyx advance. Artillery is also exceptionally important for targeting plant structures from a safe distance. This becomes especially important when enemy units like spitters begin to spawn. As of the demo, there's only 2 kinds of Calyx: green, which attacks solely by spreading, and pink, which can also spawn spitters. It isn't much, and the combat, though unique, becomes very repetitive very quickly. Ideally, we'll want to see a much wider variety of Calyx, unit, and building types in the finished version. I'd say the keys to replayability here are going to be variety and personality. Unit and enemy variety, as I mentioned, but also tactical variety. Letting the less dangerous plants keep the stronger ones at bay is pretty clever, but I also want to see more interesting interactions between the different Calyx types, maybe even some that become more dangerous if they come into contact with one another. Terrain variety would also be nice. I get that the planet is essentially a desert without the Calyx, but what if it grows faster or slower on certain terrain? What if some species can climb ledges or even be cultivated into assisting the player? Personality is the other big miss right now. All of the buildings and units look alright, but they also just look like the most stereotypical sci-fi stuff you could imagine. It's nothing I haven't seen a billion times, and it lacks the kind of image you'd expect from such an interesting concept. Like I said before, making the units and weapons more appropriate for fighting a giant plant would be a start, but adding company logos, little details, or at least some unique coloration would all be big steps in the right direction. As far as the concept goes, I love the idea of Calyx. I'm not at all sold on the story or the style, though. I want to know a lot more about what this planet and its killer planets are doing and why they're doing it, as well as why our company stranded us here and what happened to our ship. That said, if the devs manage to blaze their own trail and form a more unique identity for this game, it could turn out to be something really refreshing while still holding that classic RTS style that players love. But I'm still just the voice in your head, so what do you think about Calyx? Do you like the strategy of botanical warfare, or do you wish the enemy was more reactive? Is the concept of a living planet enough to draw you in, or do you want more of a story here? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, leaving a like helps get the channel through the algorithm and means I don't get eaten by angry vegetables. If you want to see more, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep new content coming your way, because I'm back to putting out new stuff every week. Thanks so much for listening to me today, and you'll be hearing from me again real soon.